You're listening to 15 Minutes, where we feature community leaders sharing what the rest of us should know but likely don't. Hi, Chad Franson here, one of the hosts of Share Your Voice, where we talk with top-notch law firms and lawyers about what it takes to grow a successful law practice. This episode is brought to you by Gladiator Law Marketing, delivering tailor-made services to help you accomplish your objectives and maximize your growth potential. To have a successful marketing campaign and make sure you're getting the best ROI, your firm needs to have a better website and better content. Gladiator Law Marketing uses artificial intelligence, machine learning, and decades of experience to outperform the competition. To learn more, go to gladiatorlawmarketing.com, where you can schedule a free marketing consultation. Karl Seelbach is co-founder of Doyle Seelbach PLLC law firm and the innovative mind behind Skribe.ai. That's SKRIBE.ai. Whether it's dominating Texas courtrooms or pushing the boundaries of legal tech, Karl's expertise is in a league of its own. Off duty in Dripping Springs, Texas, he embraces the joys of being a proud girl dad, cheering from the sidelines of his two daughters' volleyball and basketball games. Hey, Karl, great to have you today. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Chad. I appreciate you having me.
Hey, tell me, as we get started here, how and when did you know you wanted to become an attorney?
So that's a great question. And so for me, it actually goes back to probably being about 9 or 10 years old, growing up in a small town in Northeast Texas. I grew up in Henderson, Texas, and my dad was in the oil and gas business and worked as a safety engineer. And in addition to working for these companies, he also had kind of a part-time side gig doing personal injury expert witness work. So he would be brought into these cases to analyze how an accident happened and provide his assessment of whose responsibility it was, how it could have been prevented. And so he had a home office when he was not offshore working on oil and gas platforms, but when he was home, he'd have a home office and he'd be working these cases. And anyway, long story short, I'd go into his office, bug him. I was probably 9, 10 years old. Hey, Dad, let's go throw the baseball. Let's go do this. Let's go do that. And, he finally said one day, hey, why don't you read this? And he handed me a deposition transcript of a really gruesome kind of personal injury case and kind of flipped to the pages where the accident was being described. And I was intrigued. I mean, to me, it was super interesting, especially being kind of a gruesome personal injury to a 9, 10-year-old boy. That's kind of fascinating. And so, I got to meet some of the attorneys that he used to work with. And as I learned kind of more about what they do, more about what my dad was doing, it just kind of inspired me. I kind of knew that I wanted to go to law school probably from around that age, pretty young age.
Mm-hmm. So you kind of grew up thinking that that's what you wanted to do. How did you kind of get started in the legal industry then?
Yeah. So, I wasn't 100% sure that that's what I wanted to do. Part of me thought about going to become a CPA. So I actually did take some accounting classes in undergrad, but I also had a double major in political science. And really at the end, when I was weighing those two career paths, the legal option just seemed more interesting. The other one, I enjoyed it, but it just was a little bit more stale to me, at least. And so I ended up going to Stephen F. Austin for undergrad and then South Texas for law school. And, my path was pretty straight. I knew I wanted to do advocacy. I wanted to do litigation. South Texas has one of the top advocacy programs in the nation. And I was fortunate enough to be a part of that and do some of those tournaments and even win some of those tournaments. And so that was a lot of fun. And it got me in courtrooms, mock courtrooms back then. And from there, I worked at a large Texas law firm called Winstead for many, many years. And that was how I got that's how I started my career. And so I was in Houston at the time and started as just a cog in the wheel, so to speak, of a big law firm and, carrying the briefcase for the first couple of years.
Have you always done personal injury law as you kind of decided you wanted to do when you were young?
That's a good question. I've almost always, I would say when I first started at Winstead back in 2006, I was doing a lot of different things, like a lot of young associates, you try to get exposure to the various partners and their practices. So I was doing some finance and banking related litigation. I was doing some appellate litigation. I was doing just run-of-the-mill commercial litigation, business disputes. But once I got a taste of kind of handling a personal injury case, I kind of knew that that's what I enjoyed more. It tends to be more, at least in my experience, more people oriented, less paper. And so you get to kind of go develop the facts, investigate the scene of the accident, interview people, take lots of depositions. And some of the other things I was doing, it's not that I didn't enjoy them, but they tended to be like, okay, here's a room full of boxes, review all of the documents in this, construction defect case or this, complex commercial litigation case. And, there's pros and cons to that, but I found that developing the facts through investigation, interviews, and depositions was just more, it was more interesting to me.
So you have launched a firm, Doyle and Seelbach PLLC. What kind of led you to that point?
So, a really good friend of mine, one of my best friends, Trek Doyle, and I started that law firm in 2015. And what led us to that path was kind of the reality that we were at a great law firm, Winstead, that had a lot to offer. But like many larger firms, the rates were a little bit higher. And so nothing uncommon to them. It's just the nature of the type of work that they typically do. Personal injury is not always a great fit for those types of law firms. It tends to be a little more rate sensitive. So what led us to starting our own firm was we kind of realized if we were going to try to grow it beyond just one or two clients, we needed some more rate flexibility, and hanging out our own shingle, so to speak, would allow us to drop our rates. And we felt like it was kind of, if we build it, hopefully they'll come type of mentality.
Mhm.
And the thought was if we brought our rates down, that we could begin to land more and more clients. And so in 2015, we launched the firm with one client and one case. So it was pretty stressful.
Okay, yeah. So your thought was if we build it, they will come, and you had one client. Take me through the early days. Obviously, you survived past that one client. So tell me kind of how maybe the evolution starting with the ground up from the ground up.
Yeah, okay, from the ground up. Yeah, my wife was pregnant at the time with my youngest daughter, and she probably thought I was crazy for starting a company at that point in our life. But so, we really just had kind of the fire in the belly, right? It was kind of out of necessity, but also desire to build something that was our own. And so we just networked like crazy people, right? We drive to Dallas, we drive to Houston, we drive anywhere someone would sit down and meet with us or talk to us, we'd go see them and just get our name out there more and more and more. And we already had quite a few contacts and leads who had indicated, hey, we'd be interested in using you on a case if your rate was a little bit lower. But those things don't happen overnight. It's not like, okay, now I launched my own firm, send me that case. And
Mhm.
so it took a little bit of time for that to mature. And we were at first, to be frank with you, we were taking anything that walked in the door. I mean, we had a bunch of very interesting cases back then, in varying practice areas. But over time, some of those hooks that we had in the water began to land, and we got more and more and more repeat personal injury defense work from large companies. And at that point, it's kind of up to you to do a good job. And if you do a good job, usually they'll send you another file. And so that's how we grew it.
Is there a moment that's particularly memorable from your firm's lifespan, since 2015, that you're particularly proud of? Like, wow, this kind of stands out. This put us at a different level, something like that.
It's interesting. I would say that it's not necessarily one you would expect because it's not what we do now.
Hmm.
But it was a learning experience, and it stands out as something that was not only a win, but it taught me a lot about the practice of law, particularly what the other side experiences in a personal injury case. So Trek and I had a personal injury case years ago. I'm blanking on the year, but it was several years ago where we represented an individual who had been assaulted by police officers. And we were on the plaintiff side of that case. And it was both a civil rights case and a personal injury case. And it was really, really interesting. We learned so much about what it takes to be on the plaintiff side of a personal injury case. And, for my fellow defense lawyers out there, there's a lot to it. I mean, you've got to have some nerves of steel on the plaintiff side. And I would say we were very passionate about that case, and we tried it in front of a jury in Austin, Texas, in federal court before Judge Sam Sparks, and we won the case. And so that was, really, really nice feeling. It was probably one of the, at least at this point in my career, one of the few times, if only, that I actually got to talk about the Constitution in my closing argument in front of the jury.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really fun to talk about, justice and what it means, to be treated equally under the law, and the concept of the use of excessive force and the trust that we place in police officers to protect us and to not make assumptions, and the power that comes with wielding a weapon, and what that means. And so it was it was very rewarding. And I think part of the reason I think back to that case is not only the fact that it was a win, but the fact that I got to see the personal toll, the emotional toll that a personal injury case takes on the plaintiff themselves, him or herself. And it really helped frame for me my role in the justice system, now primarily being on the defense side, but it helped frame it all for me, and helps me not take for granted that that's a real human being on the other side of this case. And this is, it's impacted their life in some way. And while obviously we want to do a great job for our clients, and for me, that means mitigating their exposure, we also want to find out the truth of what happened. And so, when I'm coaching my team at the firm, which has grown to 23 people, I think we're about to add number 24 in the coming few weeks. But when I'm coaching them, I'm like, look, this is not and winning is important, but it's not a win at all cost mentality. What's more important is finding out exactly what happened, how bad the person was hurt, what's real versus exaggerated, or versus occasionally made up, because we do see some of that too. And then giving our client a realistic assessment of their exposure. What is their exposure? Should they settle this? If so, what's a reasonable amount, versus taking it the distance and letting a judge or a jury or an arbitrator decide. So I think it's a very important role in the process, right? I mean, if you didn't have defense lawyers involved, I mean, imagine the cost of consumer goods and other things if no one was there to put up a fight, and plaintiffs' lawyers could just beat the corporations over the head. So I kind of view it through a lens that what the plaintiffs' lawyers do is extremely important, but the same is true for the defense.
So it sounds like you're just looking for the right and fair outcome. Have you always had that attitude, or did that kind of strike you as you kind of represented the opposite side?
I think two things happen. So the answer to your question is no. I have not always had that attitude, and part of it was being a young, eager, maybe over-eager. Some of my opponents from years ago would probably have said, I used to have a little bit more of a, we're just going to beat the other side, whatever it takes. We're going to beat the other side. How are we going to win? How can we spin this? How can we, do it this way? I think two things happened. I got a little bit older, and I represented some plaintiffs. And I think it was a combination of those two things, having handled probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 to 15 plaintiff personal injury cases when we first started our firm, and also getting a little more mature, both, just in life, but also in my career, helped sharpen my focus and also improve my perspective.
As I mentioned, you are the innovative mind behind Skribe.ai. But before we take a closer look at it, tell me kind of in general, why would somebody actually tell me first, what led to your developing Skribe.ai?
So it was taking lots of depositions, taking and defending lots of depositions. So, I started taking, when I was sworn in to be an attorney in the state of Texas, I had a really fortunate experience at my prior firm where the partners were really good about getting young lawyers involved. And so I was actually sworn in at a trial. And I was, the judge that was presiding over the case had me in the courtroom, raised my hand, swore me in, whatever the process is. I can't remember. It's been a while. And then I took a witness right then and there on the stand. And it was a bench trial, so I was not quite as nervous as being in front of a jury, but it was still pretty nerve-wracking as a brand new attorney doing that. And so between that and some other partners that I worked with that very quickly put me in the courtroom, put me in the deposition room, I just started getting tons of deposition experience. And I would always kind of wonder, as I was sitting in those conference rooms and looking at the stenography machine, which, have you ever seen a stenography machine, by the way?
No.
So you should Google stenography machine. It is a very interesting profession, and it's a keyboard that doesn't have any letters on it. And the stenographer, often called the court reporter, is typing phonetic notes of everything that's said, and they're
Hmm.
typing really fast to get a written transcription of the deposition. And then for me, video is the most powerful form of evidence. Video conveys the emotion, it conveys the tone. You can learn things from a video that you just can't get from stale text. And so my client would pay a videographer to be there too. And so we'd be paying a stenographer to sit there and type on a funky looking keyboard and a videographer to set up equipment that looked like it was from 1980 to film Jaws, or something, just to capture a record of what was being said. And I've always been a bit of a techie, and it kind of struck me as odd that we were paying so much money when I had this extremely capable, computer, iPad, smartphone. Like, wouldn't it be a better way to do this? And so that's really part of what inspired it, was just my own experience and witnessing kind of firsthand some of the inefficiencies of the process.
So, who would most benefit from visiting Scribe.ai?
Yeah, so it would be anyone who works with depositions in their practice. So whether that's an attorney or a paralegal or a legal assistant, they
Mhm.
could all benefit from what Scribe has to offer. So yeah, it's a good question.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen here, and we'll dive a little deeper into it. First, I was while you were talking there, I was googling a stenography machine. So for those who are able to watch on video, is that what you were talking about here?
Yeah, you got it. So it's really interesting. Like, it's a very impressive profession. Stenographers are extremely skilled. They have to go to special training school to get certified to do this. And they are taking phonetic notes of what's said, and then after the deposition, they go through a process of scoping those notes. And there's software that helps accelerate that. But essentially, the phonetic notes are then translated into words that you and I can read in a transcript.
Okay, very interesting. So let's talk about Scribe.ai. We're looking at the home screen right now. People come here. What can they find by going to going to Scribe.ai and hitting enter?
Yeah, so if you'll hit the product tab, it's probably to frame kind of your earlier question of who can benefit from this and why would they benefit. So as that's loading up, I'll just kind of explain at a high level. The cost to capture testimony has grown considerably just since COVID. I mean, it's grown considerably in the last 10 years, but if you just rewind to 2020 to the present, the cost to take a deposition has just it's more than doubled. And so to get a video deposition with a stenographer from a court reporting agency is now costing somewhere around $800 per record hour. So for a 2 hour deposition, about $1,600; for a 3 hour deposition, over $2,000. And that's a lot of money. It's more than what most attorneys charge, much more than what most attorneys charge for their time. And so Scribe is a modern alternative. And the thought is, we've come a long way since the stenography machine was invented in 1877. And there's a better way that we can do this now, and that's through software. And so Scribe, the product has two pillars: Scribe Live, which is for taking depositions or any other forms of testimony, examinations under oath, recorded statements, witness interviews, anywhere where you need to capture the spoken word, you can use Scribe Live for that. And that is powered by Zoom. We're actually an official Zoom ISV partner. And so the experience is really almost identical to the user as the meeting that we're having right now. It happens in Zoom, and most of the magic is taking place actually on the back end, where Scribe servers are connecting in and capturing that information, the video and the audio, and then transcribing it after the fact.
Wow, very nice. So we're taking a look at the product page now. Anything that should stand out to us?
Yeah, so the second part is really Scribe Library. So I said there were two pillars. One, kind of, we've already talked about there's cost savings, there's time savings associated with Scribe Live, which I'll come back to in just a minute. The second is Scribe Library. And the thought there is at least in my practice, I often have a lot of audio and video files, whether that's a video deposition that maybe the other side picked the court reporting company, or it's, training videos, 911 calls, body cam recordings. There's all types of audio and video files in a case. And rather than have those files sitting in a file cabinet or just sitting on a case management platform, it's just a file you can download and watch or listen. Scribe Library gives you a way to put all of your audio and video into a platform where you can actually keyword search, analyze, and clip that information. So with every audio or video file you upload into Scribe Library, you get a transcript of it processed within minutes, and then you can actually go in and keyword search it. You can create clips, and you can actually share those clips just as easy as I would send you a YouTube video. You get a little URL, and then you can just drop that in to, an email, a report, a brief, and the recipient can just click it, and the corresponding clip pops up and plays in their browser.
Okay. So there's also a litigators page. Just kind of introduce me to that one as I click on it here.
Yeah, sure. And then as it's loading on your end, I'll mention a couple of the other benefits. So again, Scribe was designed, kind of by an attorney to solve problems that I personally experienced. And the two big ones, really three big ones, were time. It took me way too long to get a copy of my record unless I was willing to pay, really hostage prices, double, triple, to get it faster. And that just didn't feel right to me in the modern day, 2023, to have to wait so long to get a copy of something that just happened and was video recorded. So with Scribe, you get within about 1 to 2 hours of your deposition, you get a video synced transcript where you can, as what's on the screen now points out, you can create same day video clips. You don't have to pay any extra to get it synced to the transcript. You don't have to wait. You don't have to load it into some special software that you need a license for. Everyone on your team can access the deposition video, sync to a transcript within a couple of hours of the deposition itself. So the speed component is pretty important. And, once you kind of have all your testimony at your fingertips, so to speak, it gives you some really cool options that attorneys are just beginning to kind of see the potential of what they can do with that video testimony. So things like actually putting a highlight reel in your brief so that in the facts section of a motion or of a brief, you not only have the transcript, but you can actually put video clips into your brief that the judge can then watch the testimony. I mean, that's a pretty cool thing. And my firm is doing it. Other firms are doing it. We had a motion for summary judgment filed in Dallas just a couple of months ago that included video clips. It just makes it not only more persuasive, but more impactful when you can put the video evidence into your work product.
There's also a pricing page, a few more other pages, and there's the opportunity to try it for free. Once somebody tries it, whether they pay or they just try it for free, what do you think? How will their life change?
Yeah. Oh, that's a very good question. It's a loaded question, right? How would your life change? So there's two aspects to this. Like if we just take a step back,
hmm
one is very much a access to justice. Who is ultimately paying for this at the end of the day? And so I mentioned the cost earlier of just how expensive it's become to take a video deposition with a stenographer transcript. At the end of the day, the client is who usually bears the cost, whether it's a plaintiff personal injury case and they're settling up the account at the end of the lawsuit, or if it's on the other side of the V and it's a defense attorney, they're passing that cost through to their clients to pay. It doesn't mean that they don't care about the price. They still care about the price, but the clients are the ones ultimately footing the bill. So, when you ask me, how does it change your life if you use Scribe? One, you're doing a better job for your client because you're getting a higher quality record that you can do more things with for a much better price. And so to me, and there's even ethical rules around this concept of being a good steward of your client's money and their funds. And so I think that on the one hand, it is better for the clients to look at modern alternatives, whether that's Scribe or some other company. The fact is, you should always be looking for ways to modernize your processes and to reduce the cost for your clients if you can still do as good or better a job. On the other hand, if you're a litigator or you're someone who works with litigators, the paralegals carry a heavy burden and are often underappreciated. And so if you're a paralegal or a legal assistant or secretary or someone who works in litigation support, what it does for you is really two ways it actually does change your life in the role that you have. And so let me give two examples. One is the speed. There's no more waiting. There's no more, do we have a copy of the transcript? Oh my gosh, we've got a deposition, in 2 days, or we have something we have to file tomorrow. Where is that deposition? You have it. You have the rough sync to the video within an hour to two, and you actually get your final transcript within 3 days of the deposition with no rush fees. So the speed alone kind of makes it easier for the attorneys and their teams to digest what just happened today and get ready for what needs to happen tomorrow. So, that's one way. And I think that's a pretty big impact just in and of itself. The other is it puts all of that testimony that historically, if you just ask your average attorney, hey, if you wanted to create a video clip or an audio clip of either a deposition or some other file, some other media file in your case file, what would that process look like and how much time would it take? And your average response is going to be something like, I have no idea how to do that. Or I would highlight with a highlighter or in Adobe a transcript, and then I would have to hand that off to someone else on my team or maybe to a vendor to go and create video clips for me. And that's not only takes a lot of time because it involves multiple people, but it often involves an expense with a vendor who's now going to charge you to create all of those video clips. So you think about like getting ready for a trial or getting ready for a mediation. And so with Skribe, it really is as simple as highlighting text. Like when you highlight the text within the application, you can create a video clip that you can then download or you can then share with that URL like I was talking about earlier. So it really just speeds stuff up. And you can stop sharing if you want. There's nothing else on the marketing page really to show.
Okay, well, sounds good. So that's scribe.ai, scribe with a K dot AI. As we wrap things up here, just tell me a little bit more how people can find out about Doyle and Seelbach.
Yeah, so either the law firm or the software company, I like to network on both, right? I love both things, being an attorney and being a software founder. It's a nice overlapping passion. So to find out more, the best place to find me is probably on LinkedIn, just first name, last name, Karl with a K, Seelbach, Seelbach. But if you're interested in connected with me on the law firm side, just shoot me a message on LinkedIn or an email. If you're interested in Skribe and you want to talk to me or you don't want to talk to me, you can either shoot me a message to set up a meeting, or if you just want to try it and you really don't want, kind of a dog and pony show or a demo, you can try it for free. And so you can create an account, you can upload, just grab an audio or video file from your case or from an older case if you want to use something from the past, and you can upload it into Skribe, see what it's like to get that transcript synced to the video and audio, and you can actually go in and create video clips. And so your first file that you upload, whether it's an hour, 2 hours, whatever, we'll process the first 30 minutes of that and give you the experience so you can kick the tires.
Okay, sounds great. Hey, very interesting stuff, Karl. It's been great to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time and for taking us through Skribe.
Yeah, Chad, I meant to ask you though. I mean, I'm a little jealous of the weather that you get. You're in Fort Collins, right?
Yeah. I wouldn't be
Yeah.
too jealous right now, honestly. It was
Okay.
like 11 degrees here last night,
Well, it's
unless you're a
finally,
big winter person.
well, I do like the winter, but it's finally cooled off in Texas. It was in the 40s yesterday, so that was nice for Halloween.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. I'll
Yeah.
actually be there in a couple weeks. I'm looking forward to leaving the freezing cold temperatures.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, have you been excited this football season with Mr. Neon Deion Sanders and the Colorado team?
oh, absolutely. I couldn't stop thinking about it for a while. They're on kind of a downward swing, but we'll
Yeah.
see. Hopefully they can pick it back up.
Yeah, cool. Well, I certainly appreciate you having me on, and it's been fun, talking to you and telling you a little bit about what we're up to in Austin.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Karl.
Thank
So
you.
long, everybody. Thanks for listening to 15 Minutes. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you next time.